This year we had a great garden, but one of the problems we ran into is our garden was in one spot, but all of our garden tools were 150 yards away. And so really to work in the garden, we have to do a lot of planning and go back and forth. Now we had planned on doing this at some point, but I think that point is now, and that we were going to build a garden shed. And so the garden shed is a small building, probably 8 by 12 is what we'll build it. Just something to hold potting soil in, hold our garden tools in, shovels, rakes, things like that, garden hoses, all that other stuff. But we want it to be right here by the garden. Now, we had anticipated early on that we were going to need this, so while our house was being built, we took some excess dirt and built a pad in this area, and so now it's time to build it. Now, one of the challenges we have with building a garden shed is I want it to be square with an outbuilding. Now, I know the outbuilding is square with the house, and so as long as we can square this building up with an outbuilding, everything will be proper and lined up. I mean, that's just me. I like everything to be kind of parallel to each other or perpendicular to one another, and everything just kind of squared up. I think it makes the place look a lot nicer. And so how do we do that? Well, there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but my approach is pretty simple. I'll show you what I'm going to do. My strategy is going to be to use these posts on the porch to help stretch a long string back to where the garden shed is going to be. Then I can set a couple of stakes in the ground, and I can have a pretty good estimation of the front of this building and then be able to work off that initial string line that I'm going to set. To do this project, all you need are some simple tools. I'm going to use 4 wooden stakes that I bought from the hardware store, a long line of string, a tape measure, and a hammer to drive the stakes in the ground. Now I could use this corner post to tie a string off too, but that won't work because the corner post will be the end pivot point as I turn the string, and so I'll never get a real perpendicular line with this according to the front of the building. So what I'll do, instead of using this corner post, I'll come 1, 2, 3 posts back, and then I'll tie the string to this 3rd post, and then that way when I stretch it across, as I get to the other end, as long as that string will kind of touch this post, it ought to be right in line with the front of this porch. After I've stretched the string out, I came to the very back point of where I think the back corner of the shed is going to be, and that's where I'll put my first stake. And so when I stretch the string out, all I've got to do is make sure the string is barely touching the front of those posts, and then put in my first stake where the string lies, and then that way they'll give me a good starting point from where this building is going to lay out from there. Okay, now I've got my string laid out. Again, I put my first corner in, and this string as it runs down in front of the porch is laid right against those posts. That's why I went 3 posts in, to keep it square with the building. And so I'm reasonably certain that this first corner is going to be parallel with the first front of that building. And so now all I got to do is from this post, so now since I have this first stake driven, I know that my building is roughly going to be 8 feet from north to south by 12 feet wide. So I'll just have to measure from this corner stake 8 feet in, and that'll help me rough in the next step, which I'll have to go in from there to figure out where the corners of my building are going to be. Now with my second stake laid right against the string, I'll go ahead and hammer this one in as well. So this is the basis of where we're going to mark our building from. Okay, we got 1 stake in, 1 more stake to go, and then we've done our rough layout of where we're going to position our building. And so stay tuned throughout this whole series. We'll take a step-by-step approach on how we build this garden shed, and hopefully if you follow along, you can build one like this too.